We often talk about climate change in terms of heat pumps and solar power, things like that. But Maine's climate is getting warmer, and that could force a lot of changes for our state's environment and the wildlife that depend on it.
Some of those changes could affect one of our favorite birds. News Center Maine's John Carrigan has the latest in our ongoing reports on Maine's changing climate.
There is nothing quite like it in Maine's outdoors. The loon is part of who we are.
The eerie sounds, the yodels and the wails late at night, those are the sounds that get the people going.
The cry of the loon has a grip on Dick Greenam. He lives on Long Pond in the Belgrade Lakes and heads the area's Loon Preservation Committee. It's people doing all they can to protect these birds.
A lot of the old timers will say, I just don't see the loons that I've seen in years past. What's happening to them?
In fact, Greenam says the adult loons are doing fairly well on Long Pond and neighboring Great Pond. About 100 total. Each nesting pair of loons needs its own territory, he says.
A territory is essentially a cove, maybe a 4 or 5 acre cove. And that's enough territory to support one family.
Meaning each lake can only hold so many, with an estimated population of 4,000 to 5,000 loons statewide.
They're beautiful. I mean, they're strikingly gorgeous, one.
Danielle D'Oria watches loons for a living. She is the water bird biologist for Maine's Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife.
They're pretty fascinating because they are long-lived, and they could potentially tell us a lot about what our environment is doing.
And what we know from climate statistics is their environment is growing warmer. Are they at risk?
Yeah, I definitely think they're at risk.
Loons are a cooler climate bird. Some experts have predicted the species will gradually leave Maine if we continue warming. But D'Oria says there's more to it than just temperature.
Things are more complicated than that and nuanced, and it could be certain locations and populations that get affected. There has been some research in New Hampshire that have shown lower productivity with increasing temperature and increasing rainfall.
That part about rainfall matters. Much of Maine may be in a drought right now, but over time, the unstable climate is expected to produce more heavy rainstorms.
You know, loons who nest right against the shore because they can't really walk on land very well, they're very vulnerable to flooding. So if things get washed over or flooded, those eggs might not make it.
Climate change is not the only threat to Maine's loons, she says. There's avian flu right now and a disease called avian malaria, previously unknown in Maine, but carried here by mosquitoes coming from the south as temperatures in Maine warm up.
Real concern. We get calls that, hey,
for Dick Greenam, loons have become a mission. He and his wife create a floating nest in a cove each year because there's no good spot on shore. And he keeps watch on the eggs, the loons of the future.
Great Pond, which is next door, that we're responsible for, 2 years ago had only one egg, one chick that fledged, which means they reached 12 weeks of age and they flew off. Only one on that 8,500 acre lake. Long Pond had 3 that year.
That's still not a lot to keep the population going.
No, it isn't.
The reason is still not clear, but a cause for worry, he says. Visitors to this part of Maine are still drawn in part by the beautiful, beckoning birds.
You know, people come into the local stores and they say, where can I see a loon? Where can I catch a big fish? And where can I find a moose?
And for now, at least, the loons still make these waters their summer home. 50 years from now, will these lakes have loons?
I would like to think they will. Maybe we won't have as many. You know, it's so hard to predict. Animals are adaptable too, and that's the beauty of things is, you know, there's genetic variation. So maybe there will be enough genetic variation that certain individuals will will have a way of getting through some of those challenges and then pass those genes on to their next generations.
Because we all want to be sure Maine never loses the loons. In Belgrade, Don Carrigan, News Center, Maine.